Welcome back to the Simulator series. In today's episode, we are going to be scripting the Gamepass Shop Gui that we made in the last episode. As always, if you guys do enjoy the video or it does help you out, make sure you smash the like button, also hit the subscribe button, and turn post notifications on if you want to get notified when I upload more Roblox development content. Additionally, I do have a Patreon. If you guys like to support me and gain access to all the scripts and the game file I make during this episode, there's a link down below in the description, and you guys can go and check that out. To showcase the functionality of the GUI, when we go into Eating Simulator, we can click on the shop button, which will pop up with the shop GUI. Then inside of here, we have 4 different buttons which we can click: the passes, which displays all of the passes; the ultra pets, which displays the pets for sale; the coins, which displays a couple of coin packages for sale; and then finally boost, which displays the boost for sale as well. Now with the boost, whenever we click on one of these buttons, for example, it will pop up with a developer product which we can purchase. The same goes for the passes. If we click on any of these passes, it will allow us to purchase them. So hopping back into Studio where we left off last time, let's go into the starter GUI, and we have our Gamepass shop. Now we'll expand this a little bit. One of the things I want to quickly change that we didn't do last time was if we look inside of all of our containers, we have something in them called template. The only container that we actually don't have something called template inside is the boost container. So what we want to quickly do is rename this frame from frame to template. We then want to script this button right here, which will be the button that we can click to actually display the shop. Now we already did something very similar to this with the settings, and if we look inside of this button script right here, we actually have the exact functionality that we also want to have for the Game Pass button. So what we're going to do is we're simply just going to copy this and we're going to paste it directly into the Game Shop GUI. Then let's go ahead and open up the script, and now we see we have the buttons GUI, which refers to this GUI right here. So inside of the buttons holder, this time we need the shop button instead of the settings button. So we have the settings button right here. Let's replace that with shop, and then all we have to do is replace the settings button with shop button. Boom, boom, there we go. And now whenever we click on this, it will enable the screen GUI, and the screen GUI refers to the parent, which would be the Game Pass shop. We can go ahead and test this out by starting up our game, clicking on the button, and we can see it pops up when we click it, or it closes if it's already open when we click the button. The next thing that we want to do is we want to head inside of the replicated storage inside of our config folder, and we want to create a module script which will hold the configurations for all of our different game passes and developer products. So what we're going to do is we are just going to simply insert a brand new module script, and we'll rename this to Gamepass Shop. Now remember, we have 4 different categories in our shop, so we're going to be making 4 different configuration tables inside of this one module script for each of the different categories. The first category that we'll create a config for will be the passes. So we're going to say module.passes, and then we're going to create a table, and we're going to use this as an array. So we're going to create another table inside of here, and this is going to be one of the config lines. So one of the properties that each of our game pass is going to have is going to be the ID, and for the first pass it's going to be infinite_food. Then the second property is going to be the price. So how much Robux is it going to cost, and we're going to say 799. Then the last property we're going to create for now is going to be the image property, and we're just going to set that to a blank string. Now if you're using a specific image for each individual game pass, then you would put the URL to the image directly here. Then we're going to add a comma at the end of this, and we're just going to duplicate this line 3 times, and then we'll just modify some of these properties for a couple of other game passes. So the second game pass that we're going to have is ×2_food. That is going to cost 549, and then the third one is going to be VIP, and that will cost 449. Now let's go back inside of the Gamepass Shop GUI, and we'll add a new local script, and we're just going to call this handler. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create the generator. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a generator for this shop. And what I mean by that is we're going to create a function, and we're going to loop through all of the passes in our config file, and we're going to take this information, and we're going to use that information along with the specific templates to populate our GUI. It's the exact same method that we used when creating the settings GUI, so you guys should be already familiar with this. Anyways, inside of the handler, we're going to get the replicated storage. Additionally, we are going to want to require the Game Pass shop config that we just made. Now that we have that, let's start creating a couple of variables for the GUI and the frames inside of it. So we're going to say local screen GUI equals script dot parent. Then we want to get the frame, so frame equals screen GUI dot frame. Then since we're first going to generate the passes category, let's go ahead and get the passes container. So we're going to say local passes container equals frame dot passes container. And then we also want to get the passes template as well. So we're going to say local passes template equals passes container dot template. Additionally, let's go ahead and initialize the exit button as well. So we're going to say local exit equals frame dot exit button, and we can script that really quick. So we'll say exit dot mouse button one click, connect, function, and then screen GUI dot enabled equals false, so that it makes the screen GUI invisible whenever we click the exit button. Next, let's go ahead and create a function inside of here, and we're going to call that generate. And we're going to call the first parameter info, and that's actually going to be a table. The next argument is going to be called template, and that's actually going to be either a text button or a frame. And remember, the passes template is actually a text button, but if we remember correctly, the boost template is actually a frame. That's why we're saying either a text button or a frame. And of course, you guys don't have to add the type checking here like I am. You could simply just write that and not type check at all, but I like to do type checking because I think it really helps. And then the final argument is going to be the container where we're going to store the generated templates at, and that's going to be a scrolling frame. So now we have all the arguments for that function. We then want to create a variable for cloning the template. So we're going to say local clone equals template. Remember the template that we're passing through, clone. Then we're going to set the parent of the clone to the container, which we also pass through here. Now let's open up the frame and let's go inside of passes for right now. So we have the template right here. So first we're going to set the name of the template, which would be a text button, to the info.id. And remember, info.id for an example would be infinite_food, and that's what the name of the text button is going to be set to. Then inside of the template, we have a text label called title. We're going to modify the text of that text label, and we're going to set it to the info.id. And remember when we created the settings generator, we used the function on the string called gsub. And what that does is it replaces a specific character or string with another specific character or string that you want it to. So we want to replace the underscore with a space. And the reason that we're doing that is for infinite_food, that will just be infinite space food, which is how we want it to be displayed. Then we also have the price label. So we're going to say clone.price.text equals info.price. And finally, we have the image label, and we're going to say clone.image.image, because remember, this refers to the image label, and then image, if we look inside of image, we can see that the image label named image has a property also named image. So we can say clone.image.image equals, and then we will say the info.image. And remember, the info ID, price, and image all come from this specific configuration line right here. And then finally, what we want to do is we want to set the clone to be visible, so the player can actually see it. And then whenever the player clicks on this, we also want to do something as well. So we're going to say clone.mouse button one click, connect, function, and for right now, we are just going to print true so that we know that it was clicked. Now that we have the basic generator created, we actually need to loop through a table inside of our config and use the generator. And we'll do this by saying for_info in pairs config dot, and for this example, we're going to be using passes. So we're going to say dot passes do, and then we're just simply going to call generate, and we'll pass through info, which is going to be the config table. And then for the template and the container, we want to use the passes template and the passes container. Now, the last thing that we want to do, just so that we can quickly test this out, is we want to make the passes container visible so that we can actually see this. And let's also set this template to not visible so that we don't see the blank template that we're not actually using. Then we can go ahead, start up our game, and make sure that this works all correctly. And as we see infinite food, 2x food, and VIP have all been generated. We can see their prices are correct and their image is correct as well, because our image is just a blank string, which means that there's no image currently. Additionally, if we click on them, we can see true has been printed to the console, and that means that everything is working exactly as we want it to. Now, that was one of the harder parts, but we're still going to have to customize this in the future to be tailored towards every single container. This is currently only tailored specifically towards the passes container, and we'll modify this more in the future so that it works with all the containers that we have. What we now want to work on is the shop categories button and making them functional. So underneath our frame right here, let's go ahead and set a variable for the category frame, and we're actually going to rename the category frame from category frame to just category. So we're going to say local category equals frame.category. Additionally, underneath of the exit button, we're going to create a new variable called current category, and we're just going to set that to passes, as that's the first category that we want to display to the player, because that's our first button. The next thing that we want to do, underneath the for loop where we currently are generating passes at, we want to make another for loop, and this time we're actually going to loop through the category frame and get all of the different buttons. So we're going to say for_button in I pairs category get children do. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say button.mouse button one click. So whenever we click on a button, we want to do something. And for right now, we'll just say print true, for example. But the thing is that if we actually ran this, we would come up with an error because mouse button one click is not an event of the UI grid layout. And remember, we're getting all of the categories children, and these are all the category children right here. So we pretty much need to filter out the UI grid layout. And one simple and easy way to do that is by saying if not button, and then we're going to use isa, and then we say what we want it to be. So we want them to be text buttons. So we're saying if it is not a text button, then what we're going to do is we are going to continue through the loop end. And now this is all on one line. Another way to format this, which you might be more familiar with, is this way. This is normally how if statements are written, but you guys have seen me write if statements on one line before, so it shouldn't be too new. But what this is saying is while looping through this, if the button is not actually a text button, then we're going to completely ignore that item and just continue through the loop. So we're basically stopping the code before it gets to this part, and we're doing that so that when it's a UI grid layout, it stops right here before it actually gets to the mouse button one click, because that would throw an error. So I'm going to undo what I just did right there and just keep it all on one line, and it looks very clean. Now we want to create another function underneath of the generate function that we have, and this function is going to be called display. And what we're going to accept is the category, which is going to be a string. And then what we're going to do is with this for loop, every single time we click the button, what we want to do is we want to call the display function, and we want to pass through the button's name. Now the reason for that is because if we look at the buttons, we have a button called boost, coins, passes, and pets. And if you look at our containers, the names of the containers are also coins, passes, pets, and boosts. So if you're not getting the big picture yet, just keep following along. Don't worry. What we first want to do is we first want to check if the current category, which remember is the variable that we set up here, is the same as the category which just got passed to this function. And if that's true, then we don't want to do anything. So we're just going to say then return end, which basically prevents anything from below this line from running. And the reason that we're doing that is because, for instance, if the player is on the passes page and they click the passes button, we don't need it to do anything, so it shouldn't. Then what we want to do is we want to create a new variable, and we're going to call this current container. And we want to set that to frame, find first child, and then we want to pass through the current category, ... which we use to combine a string, and the string is going to be container. So imagine the current category equals passes. What we're going to do is we are going to look inside of the frame, which let's see, this is the frame, and then inside of the frame, we're looking for passes container, and that'll find the scrolling frame right here, and then we can do something with this. Now what we want to do with the found frame is we want to set the visibility of it to false, so the player no longer sees it. After we do that, we then want to set the current category to the new category that we just passed to the function, and then we're actually going to do the exact same thing. So we can literally copy this line right here. Don't copy the local though. And we're once again going to set the current container to the frame, find first child, and now the new container, because remember, we're setting current category to the new category that we're passing through right here. And then we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to find the new container frame, and then once we do that, we want to set the current container frame to visible so that the player can actually see it. So to recap what's going on here, whenever we click on any of these buttons, we're going to call the display function with the name of that button. And if we clicked on a page that we're not already looking at, then we're going to find the container that we're already looking at. We're going to make that not visible, and then we're going to set the same variable to the new category that we want to look at, and then we're going to find the new container frame, and we're going to make that visible so we can see it. So pretty much hide the old one and show the new one. So let's go ahead, start up our game, and test this out. By clicking on Ultra Pets, we can now see that this is displayed, and remember, we still need to set all the templates to not be visible except for the passes. But now when we click on passes, we only see the generated passes. When we click on Ultra Pets, we only see the Ultra Pets. When we click on coins, we only see coins, and then when we click on boosts, we only see boosts. So that is working perfectly, and if we click on the same button that we're already looking at, nothing happens. It's all working exactly as it should be. With that all being set up, the next thing that we want to do is we want to head back to our Game Pass config file, and let's add another category to this. So what we can do is we can copy our passes category and then paste it right below it. This time we'll add the pets category. So our first pet, we're just going to use a random example for this. It's going to be dog. The second one will be cat, and the third one will be turtle. Now for the price, we are going to set it to the prices that they have it as, so 19,900, 4,999, and finally 2,449. Then for the image, we're once again going to just leave those as blank strings, but we're actually going to add a new property to this, and that is going to be called stat. And for the first one, we're going to set that to 100,000. Now, the reason that we're adding the stat property to the pets is because, if we remember, it displays the pet stat at the top left-hand corner of the template. And the thing with this is that both the food stat and the money stat are both the exact same value. So we don't need to make two separate stats. But for instance, if you wanted to, you could say stat 1 and then stat 2 and set that to a different value if you wanted to, and you could easily add this to your own system. It really wouldn't be that hard at all, but we're keeping it consistent with how they have it, so we are making one specific stat. Then we'll set the stat property for the second pet, so stat equals 10,000, and then finally for the turtle, the stat is equal to 4,000. Now that we added all that, we should now modify the generate function to accommodate for all those changes. Let's go ahead and open up our pets container and look inside of the template so that we can see all the different things it has inside of it. Additionally, we can open up the passes container and compare the two different templates. The pet template doesn't actually have a title, so inside of our generate function, when we say clone.title, we actually won't be able to use this for pets, or else we're going to get an error. So the first thing we want to do is inside of this function, we want to say local title and actually create a variable for the title. And we're going to set that to clone find first child. And then we want to find a child named title. And then we'll say if title. So if we find the title child, then what we'll do is we'll do what we were already doing, which is changing the title to a specific string. Now we're going to basically do the same thing that we just did, but for the food and money stat, considering the other templates don't share the same child. So what we're going to do is we're going to say local food stat equals clone find first child food stat, and then we'll also create a variable for the money stat as well. So we'll just replace food with money, and there we go. We now have both of those. And then we're going to say if food stat and money stat, we really only need to do one, but we'll just do both because we might as well. If we find both of them, then we're going to set the food stat dot text to our food icon x, and then we'll combine that with the info dot stat. So remember, we just added the stat property to each table, so that's where we're getting the stat from. And then we'll also do the same thing for the money stat. So instead of the food logo, we'll just do the money logo, and we set that the exact same way. Additionally, I realized I made a slight mistake when we set the price text. We actually forgot to add on the R money symbol that they have onto theirs. So there we go. We now added that. And now that we have all of that, we can now generate exactly how we do with the passes for the pets. So we can just copy and paste this, and we can say pets, and then we need to pass through the pets template and the pets container. So let's initialize those variables up here. We'll copy and paste that. So pets container, and then the pets template. And then when we call the function, we want to pass through the pets template and the pets container. So there we go. Now let's start up our game and check it out. Also, make sure that you set the template to not visible so that you don't see that. And then we're just going to set this container to not visible either, because we want the first container to be the passes container. But since we were debugging and stuff like that, that's why the other one was visible. Anyway, when we load in, we now still see the passes loaded up, which is perfect. Let's click on Ultra Pets, and we now see that these have been created exactly as they should be. They have the stat at the top left, they have the price, and then they would have the image if we did use one. Looking at the numbers though, it does make me want to add the number formatter to this, so let's go ahead and do that. If you guys don't know what the number formatter is, we actually added that a while ago when we were creating the shop. It's basically a module that we're using, and I'm just going to go back into our shop manager, copy this, and I will paste it directly into here. So now we have the format number. I'm going to rename it though, so capital F and capital M for the format number. Since I don't exactly remember how to use it off the top of my head, we can search for how to use it. So we're going to use format compact, exactly like how they do. So let's find where we have our numbers at. So for instance, we have them at the price. So we'll say format number dot format compact, and then wrap our number inside of parentheses. So there we go. Then we can copy this, and we'll use that for the stat as well. So just like that. And then for the last stat as well. So we can go ahead, start this up once again, and make sure the numbers are now formatted correctly. And we can see that if we go to the Ultra Pets, we have 19K and 100K, 10K, 4K, and exactly as we want them. Now, if you guys want the format module, or you guys want to know how to use it, there are more ways of formatting your numbers. I'll leave a link down below in the description to the number format module that I used and I introduced in previous episodes, so that you guys can check it out for yourself. So the next thing that we want to do is we'll go back to the config, and we will add another category. We're actually going to copy and paste the passes table once again, because this time we'll actually be adding in the coined game pass, and the coin game passes are nearly identical to the passes. So for the first one, we're going to say plus 276.4K underscore coins, and the price of that is going to be 79. The second one is going to be 4.1M, and the final one is going to be 15.1 0.2M. And then for the prices, the second one's going to be 179, and the third one is going to be 399. Now we shouldn't have to make any changes to the generate, so all we have to do is just add the variable for the coins container and the coins template as well. We'll once again add an if statement for the coins, and we'll pass through the coins template and the coins container and start up our game and make sure that those work as they should. So if we click on coins, we can see the coins are generated. The only thing that we have to do is actually hide the initial template. So going in the coins container, let's go ahead and set the visibility of this to false. Now the final one, which is slightly more complicated, is we need to add in the boost config. So for boost, we'll just copy the coins template. We'll just copy the coins config. We'll paste it below pets, and we will set this to boosts. And now I'm just going to delete the other two boosts, and we'll just make one first and then copy this 2 times. The first one is going to be ×5_luck. The price of it is going to be 149. Now for boosts, if we look inside of the template and we look at the prices, we can see that each of them have 3 durations, and that'll be 10 minutes, 30 minutes, and then a 1-hour duration. So we need to set 3 different prices for each of the boosts. So for boosts, we're going to say price 1, and this would be the price for the 10-minute boost, and we're going to set that to 149. Then for price 2, which would be the 30-minute boost, we're going to set that to 399, and then for price 3, which would be 1 hour, we're going to set that to 699. Then we will duplicate this 2 times. Then we're going to say ×50_food and ×5_coins. Now the price for 50 food is the same as the luck, but for the 5 times coins, the first one is going to be 49, the second one is going to be 99, and the third one's going to be 149. Now that we have this, we once again need to modify the generate function to accommodate the brand new config. Now there's a couple things that are different about the boost templates compared to all the other templates. The first difference is that 1, the actual template itself is a frame and not a text button, so we're going to have to accommodate that. And then additionally, for the prices, the template doesn't have a price text label. It actually has a prices frame with more frames inside of it. So where we set the price for all of our templates so far, we actually need to do something similar to what we do up here. So we're going to say local price equals clone find first child price. And then if we do find the price, then what we'll do is what we've been doing this entire time. So we'll do that. Otherwise, we then know it's a booster template, so we need to do something to specific for this template. So we'll create another variable called prices, and we're going to set that to clone.prices. And the reason for that is because inside of this template, we have the frame, which is named prices, that holds all 3 of these other frames. Then we'll create 3 more variables. So we're going to say price 10 equals prices dot, and you can't do .10 because that's invalid syntax. What we need to do is we need to surround it in brackets, and then we say 10, and then we could say .by. And the reason we're doing that is because we're getting this frame right here, and then we're getting the by text button right here. And then we want to create this same variable for the 2 other prices as well. So price 30 and price 60, and then we just need to change what we're indexing. So price 30 and price 60, and then there we go. Now that we have all those, what we then want to do is we want to say price 10 dot price, because the price label is inside of this buy button, and then we'll set the text of the price text label inside of the button to info.price1. So now that we did that for 10, we've got to do that for 30 and 60 as well. So we'll set price 30 to 2 and price 60 to price 3. And finally, we need to handle the clicking of the buy button. So what we're going to do is we're going to say price 10 dot mouse button 1 click connect, create a new function, and then for right now we'll just print true. And then we'll duplicate this 2 times, and then we'll do that for the remaining buttons. So price 30 and price 60, and now we have all those buttons set up. And now the final thing that we need to do for the mouse button click right here, the boost template is a frame, so it doesn't have a mouse button 1 click event. So what we need to do is we need to say if clone is a text button. So if it's a text button, then we will connect the mouse button 1 click event to the clone, exactly like that. Then what we should do is make sure that the template is not visible, and we need to do one more thing, and that is create the for loop for them. So we'll just copy the pets right here, and we're going to say boosts, and we also need to get the variables for them as well. So boost container, boost template, and then we got to feed through the boost template and the boost container. So then we'll start the game up, open up the boost container, and now we see this looks as it should. So we have the ×5 looks with all the different times. If we click on the buttons, we can see that they all do print out true. Then we have the ×50 food. Once again, we can click the buttons and see that they print out, and then we also have the ×5 coins as well. And then for the coins, we also have those as well. We can click on those. For the pets, these all work as well, and then for the passes, they work too. The final thing that we need to do is create the actual game passes and developer products. Before we create those, we should differentiate between the two so that you guys know exactly which one you want to create. Game passes are meant to be are meant to be purchased one single time, whereas developer products are meant to be purchased as many times as you want. So for instance, in the passes category, we have the infinite food. We most likely want this to be a game pass because we want the player to only be able to purchase this one time, and we'll make it a permanent effect over the course of while they play. But for packages like the coins, maybe even the pets and the boosts, we want those to be developer products because we want players to be able to repurchase them as many times as they want. Now for game passes, you're unable to access those or create those in Studio, so you have to go to the Roblox website. Make sure you're signed into the same account that you are in Studio and you're creating the game on. Then you're going to want to click on Create. This will take you to a web page which shows all of the experiences that you've created. On this page, find the experience that you want to create the game passes for, and then click the little settings icon. This will create a drop-down menu, and you're going to want to click on Create Pass. Now on this page, we are able to finally create our game pass. So you can upload any image you want to display as your pass icon. I'm just going to use the thumbnails for my pass videos for ours. Then for the pass name, that will basically be the name or the title of your game pass. We'll create the pass for 2 times food, as I already created one for infinite food. Then for the description, you can obviously set this to whatever you want to. Earn 2 times food while playing. Or you don't even have to add a description. It's whatever you want to do. Then click on preview. And if everything looks good, click verify upload, and it should create the game pass for you. Then when you see the passes, click on the settings icon next to the newest one, and then click configure, and you'll be taken to this page right here. You're going to want to go to sales, and you're going to want to set this item for sale so players can actually buy it. Then you're going to want to set the price of the pass. And for this pass, it's going to be $549. And Roblox tells us how much we'll earn from this, so we're going to get 384 Robux every single time somebody buys this product. Now that this pass has been all set up, we want to grab the ID of the game pass from our address bar. So we can see the ID of this is 605555605, and we're going to need that for later. Now we'll create a developer product. So inside of Studio, click the Home tab, and then click on Game Settings. Now when you open this, you want to go to the Monetization tab, and in here you can create badges, but if you scroll down a little bit further, you can also create developer products. As we see, I've already created a couple, but let's go ahead and click on the Create button. Now when we create one, it'll just add it to this list right here. Let's go ahead, click on the 3 dots, click on Edit, and now give it a name and a price. So for this, we are going to say plus 276.4k coins, and the price, we are going to set this to 79, and then we'll click save. And if we open up the settings again, go to monetization, we can see we now have the developer product, which turns out I already made this one already, but that's fine. This is just to show you guys how to create them. Now once again, the important part here is the product ID. We are going to need that. To easily copy this, you just click on the 3 dots, and then it gives you an option to copy the ID to clipboard. So then we have the ID, which is exactly what we need. So now that we've created both the game pass and the developer product, we can start adding that to our config and handling it in the shop. So let's head over to the Gamepass Shop config, and now we want to add new entries to all of the different items. So for every single Game Pass item, we want to create a new field called Pass, and the value of that is going to be the ID of the Game Pass. Now for infinite food, we didn't create that one this time, but we did create the 2 times food. So we're going to say pass equals, and this is the Game Pass ID that we created on the Roblox website. And then for all the developer products, we want to add a field to them called product, and we're going to set that to the ID. And remember, we can go to monetization, and we can copy the ID directly from here. So let's go ahead, take that ID, paste it into here, and now we have an example of both a game pass and a developer product with the IDs, so we can use these to prompt the player to purchase them. So let's go back into the handler and start creating ways to prompt the player to purchase a specific item that they click on. At the top of the script, we want to initialize a new service, and this is actually going to be the marketplace service. And we're going to use the marketplace service to handle prompting the player to purchase the items. So we want to scroll down to where we check if the clone is a text button. Then inside of here, we want to check if it is a game pass or not. So we're going to say if info.pass, meaning that this has a pass field. Then what we're going to do is we're going to create a new variable called hasPass, and we're going to set this to true if the player already owns this game pass. Then we're going to say local success, comma, message equals pcall, and we're going to use a pcall here, and then we're going to create an anonymous function inside of there, and then we'll set hasPass to marketplace service, user owns game pass async. Then we need to pass the player's user ID and the Game Pass ID through to this method. So we're going to need to use the player service, and then we'll just create a variable called local player equals players.localPlayer, and now we have the actual player. So back down to the method, we're going to say player.user ID and pass through their ID, and then we're going to pass through the actual Game Pass ID. So we're going to say info.pass. Now the reason that we need to wrap this in a pcall is because it's an async function, and most of the times when you use async functions or functions that pull data from web pages or databases, you usually have to wrap them in a pcall because they can fail. Now after the pcall, we're going to say if hasPass. So if this value has been set or it is equal to true, then we can just print purchased for now because the player already owns the item. Otherwise, we can use the marketplace service to prompt purchase, and then we need to pass through the player, not the user ID, the actual player, and then the info.pass, so the pass ID. So that covers game passes, but now we need to add developer products. So inside the same if statement, if info.pass, then we want to add an else statement to this. And all we're going to say is marketplace prompt product purchase, and that refers to the developer products. Now I actually messed this up right here. It's not prompt purchase. It's actually prompt game pass purchase specifically. So make sure you change that method if you use the other one. So now with the prompt product purchase, what we want to pass through here is once again the player, and then we also need to pass through the product ID. So we're just going to say info.product, because remember, for the config, if it is a product, they have a product property. So there we go. We can also remove that print statement from there, and we also need to add this for the boosters because the boosters are handled a little bit differently than the other items. These are very simple to handle though. All we need to do is we're just going to use the prompt product purchase. So we'll replace the print statement right here in all of these, and then we just need to do something in the config. So the way that we're going to have the config set up for these is for boost, we're going to say product 1, and that'll be set to the 10-minute booster. Then product 2 is going to be set to the second tier booster, and then product 3 will be set to the third booster product ID. It's the exact same way that we did the price, and we're just doing the same thing with different properties this time. Going back inside of the handler, we just have to change this a little bit. So we're going to say info.product1, info.product2, and info.product3 for the price 60, price 30, and price 10, and now it's all good. Now we can go ahead, start up our game, test this out, and see if it works. Now just remember, when testing, the only products that should actually work in this video is the 2x food and the first coin package, because those are the only ones that I just set up to showcase how to do it. So let's click on 2x food, and we can see purchased is printed because if you're the owner of the game, it acts as if you already have purchased the product. But if we go to coins and then click on the first product, it will pop up with a prompt for us to purchase this item because you're able to rebuy developer products as many times as you want. Additionally, while you're in Studio, if you do purchase anything, it doesn't subtract the Robux from your account because it's all testing inside of Studio. And in the next episode, we'll actually use that testing so that we can create the backend to our product system. So that's going to be it for this video. In the next episode, we will create the entire backend and go over all that stuff for how to manage and give the player the rewards on the server side when they do purchase a product or a game pass. As always, if this video did help you guys out or you guys did enjoy it, make sure you smash the like button, also the subscribe button, and turn post notifications on if you want to get notified when I upload more Roblox development content. Of course, I do have a Patreon if you guys like to support me and gain access to all the scripts and the game file I made during this episode. There's a link down below in the description, and you guys can go and check that out. With that being said, I'll see you guys in the next episode.